Captain Han Wu stood on the bridge of the Harmony's edge and watched the stars through the wide windows. His ship was not the biggest or the strongest in the galaxy, but it was special. It carried diplomats and peacemakers. For 50 years, humans had used ships like this one to solve problems with words instead of weapons. Han Wu was proud of this work. He remembered the stories his grandfather told him about the old days on Earth, when humans fought each other with bombs and bullets. Those dark times were over now. Humans had learned to talk, to listen, and to find solutions that made everyone happy. The door behind him opened with a soft sound. Ambassador Kim Hana walked onto the bridge. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but Han Wu knew she was one of the smartest people in human space. She had solved trade wars, stopped conflicts, and made friends with alien species that most humans had never even heard of. "Captain," she said, "we are getting close to Nexus Prime." Han Wu nodded. Nexus Prime was a huge space station that belonged to no one and everyone. It floated in neutral space where all the galaxy's species could meet safely. Today they were going there to talk about trade routes with the Velkari Empire. The Velkari were not easy to work with. They were tall, thin aliens with blue skin and 3 eyes. They thought they were better than most other species, especially humans. But Ambassador Kim Hana had always found ways to make them listen. "Any word from Chancellor Minho about the colony ship?" Han Wu asked. Kim Hana's face became worried. "The New Dawn left Earth yesterday with 50,000 people. They are going to build a new home on Kepler 442b. The journey will take 6 months." Han Wu knew about the colony ship. It was one of the biggest human ships ever built, full of families who wanted to start fresh on a new world. The planet they were going to was in space that no one claimed, far from any alien territory. "The Velkari should not care about that," Han Wu said. "Kepler 442b is nowhere near their space." "I hope you are right," Kim Hana said, but she still looked worried. 2 hours later, they reached Nexus Prime. The space station was as big as a city, with spinning sections that created artificial gravity. Ships from dozens of different species were docked around it like metal flowers around a giant stem. Han Wu guided his ship to a docking port. Soon, he and Ambassador Kim Hana were walking through the station's corridors. The air smelled like a mix of different atmospheres that all the species needed to breathe. Alien beings moved past them, some walking on legs, others floating, some so strange that Han Wu could not tell which end was the head. The meeting room was large and round, with seats for representatives from 12 different species. The humans had 2 seats. The Velkari had 5 because their empire was bigger and older. Ambassador Kim Hana took her seat next to Dr. Park Jina, a human scientist who understood alien cultures. Across from them sat the Velkari delegation. Their leader was a tall alien named Veltharion. His 3 eyes never seemed to blink at the same time, which made Han Wu feel uncomfortable. "Welcome, friends," said the station's mediator, a peaceful species called the Althan. "Today we discuss new trade routes through the outer spiral." For 3 hours they talked about cargo ships, safety patrols, and tax rates. The humans offered to share their new engine technology in exchange for mining rights in the Velkari territory. It was a fair deal that would help both species. But Veltharion kept asking for more. More money, more technology, more control over the routes. Ambassador Kim Hana stayed patient and calm, offering different solutions. This was what humans did best. They found ways to make everyone happy. Then the alarm went off. Red lights flashed throughout the meeting room. A voice spoke in the station's speakers. "Emergency alert. Emergency alert. All delegates, please remain calm." Han Wu's personal communicator buzzed. He looked at the message and felt his blood turn cold. He leaned over to Ambassador Kim Hana and whispered in her ear. Her face went white. She stood up slowly. "What is the nature of this emergency?" Veltharion asked. His 3 eyes were now all looking at Kim Hana. "The human colony ship New Dawn has been destroyed," she said in a quiet voice. "All 50,000 people are dead." The room became silent. Even the air recycling system seemed to stop making noise. "How?" asked the Althan mediator. Ambassador Kim Hana looked directly at Veltharion. "Velkari warships attacked it. They said the ship was trespassing in their territory, but Kepler 442b is nowhere near Velkari space." Veltharion's 3 eyes blinked one at a time. "If a human ship entered our territory without permission, we had the right to defend ourselves." "That ship was carrying families," Dr. Park Jina said, standing up. Her voice was shaking with anger. "Children, They were not soldiers or spies. They were just people looking for a new home. The Velkhari Empire does not recognize human claims to any worlds, Veltharion said. Your species is new to this galaxy. You do not understand the rules. Ambassador Kim Hana took a deep breath. Han Wu had seen her do this before when she was trying to stay calm. The ship's navigation records show it never entered your space. We have proof. Your proof means nothing, Veltharion said. The word of the Velkhari Empire is enough. The other alien delegates looked uncomfortable, but none of them spoke up. Han Wu realized that they were afraid of the Velkhari, or worse, they did not care about human lives. We demand justice, Ambassador Kim Hana said. The Galactic Confederation has rules about killing innocent people. There must be a trial. Veltharion made a sound that might have been laughter. A trial? For defending our territory from intruders? I think not. Then we will file a formal complaint, Kim Hana said. The Confederation Council will investigate. Go ahead, Veltharion said. The Council knows who really matters in this galaxy. The meeting ended badly. Ambassador Kim Hana tried to talk to the other delegates, but they all had excuses. The Zentari said they needed more information. The Korath said it was not their problem. The Yixian said they would think about it. Only the Althan seemed sorry about what happened, but they said they could not take sides. Back on the Harmony's edge, Ambassador Kim Hana sent message after message to the Confederation Council. She asked for an investigation. She asked for justice. She asked for help. The answers came back slowly. The council said they would look into it. They said they needed more time. They said the situation was complicated. Days passed. Then weeks. Ambassador Kim Hana kept trying. She used every diplomatic trick she knew. She called in favors from old friends. She made new deals and offered new trade agreements. Nothing worked. Han Wu found her in her office late one night, staring at her computer screen. She looked older than she had a month ago, as if the stress had aged her. Any news? He asked. She shook her head. The council has decided that there is not enough evidence to punish the Velkhari. They say the matter is closed. But we have the navigation records. We have proof that the ship never entered their space. The Velkhari have been bribing council members for years, she said quietly. They have been buying votes and making secret deals. The whole system is corrupt. Han Wu felt something break inside his chest. For 50 years, humans had believed in the Confederation. They had trusted the rules and the laws. They had thought that truth and justice mattered. They had been wrong. Ambassador Kim Hana stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars looked cold and distant. Send a message to Earth, she said. Tell Chancellor Minho that humanity's time as diplomats is over. What should I tell him we plan to do instead? Han Wu asked. Kim Hana was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was different, harder. Tell him we are coming home, and tell him to wake up the programs we hoped we would never need. Han Wu sent the message. Within hours, every human diplomatic mission in the galaxy received the same order. Come home. Leave now. Bring everything. Ambassador Kim Hana recorded one final message to the Galactic Confederation. We came to you in peace. We followed your rules. We trusted your justice. 50,000 of our people are dead, and you call it acceptable. You have taught us that kindness is weakness and trust is stupidity. Thank you for the lesson. We will not forget it. The Harmony's Edge left Nexus Prime that night. Across the galaxy, other human ships did the same. By the end of the week, every human in Confederation space was gone. The age of human diplomacy was over. Admiral Lee Tajan stood in the secret military base buried deep under Earth's surface. The base was so classified that most humans did not know it existed. For 50 years, while humanity had been playing diplomats and peacekeepers, other humans had been preparing for war. Lee Tajan was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands from old battles. He had been a soldier before humans joined the Galactic Confederation. Back then, humans still fought each other, and Lee Tajan had seen what war really looked like. When humanity decided to become diplomats, people like him were told to stay quiet and wait. Now the waiting was over. General Choi Minji walked into the room carrying a tablet computer. She was younger than Lee Tajan, but just as experienced in warfare. For decades, she had been running spy networks and gathering information about alien military forces. The last diplomatic ship just returned, she said. Ambassador Kim Hana's mission was our final presence in Confederation space. Lee Tajan nodded. What about our colonies? We're moving them now, General Choi Minji said. Project Exodus is working perfectly. Project Exodus was humanity's greatest secret. While the diplomats had been making friends and signing treaties, human scientists had been developing impossible technology. They had learned to move entire planets through space, to hide whole star systems, and to make objects disappear from reality itself. Dr. Yoon Ji-won had been the leader of this research. She was a small woman with bright eyes who could solve problems that made other scientists give up. For 30 years, she had been working on technologies that would make humans impossible to find or fight. The door opened and Dr. Yoon Ji-won walked in. Behind her came Captain Nam Hyuk, a Special Forces soldier who looked like he could break a steel bar with his bare hands. "How are we doing, Doctor?" Lee Taejin asked. "Better than expected," Dr. Yoon Ji-won said with a smile. "We have moved 17 colony worlds to new locations using quantum displacement drives. The aliens think those worlds just disappeared, but they are still there. They are just somewhere else now." "Somewhere else?" General Choi Minji asked. "We folded space around them," Dr. Yoon Ji-won explained. "Imagine taking a piece of paper and folding it so that one corner touches another corner. The worlds are still in the same place, but space itself has been bent so no one can see them or reach them." Captain Nam Hyuk stepped forward. "What about our new weapons?" Dr. Yoon Ji-won's smile became wider. "The molecular disassembly weapons work perfectly. We can take apart any object at the atomic level and scatter the pieces across space. It leaves no trace and cannot be detected." "And the temporal shields?" Lee Taejin asked. "Active and tested," Dr. Yoon Ji-won said. "Any object inside a temporal shield exists slightly outside of normal time. To outside observers, it simply is not there, but the people inside can see and act in the normal world." Lee Taejin felt a cold satisfaction. For 50 years, the aliens had thought humans were weak because they chose peace. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for the day when peace would fail. "What about our intelligence networks?" he asked General Choi Minji. "Still active," she said. "The aliens think all humans have left, but we still have people watching them."
"Captain Nam Hyuk's teams are invisible to their sensors." Captain Nam Hyuk nodded.
"My soldiers are equipped with personal temporal shields. We can walk through alien cities and they cannot see us, hear us, or detect us in any way. We know everything they are doing." Lee Taejin walked to a large screen on the wall. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of points of light. Red points were alien worlds. Blue points were human colonies. As he watched, more blue points disappeared from the map. "They think we are running away," he said quietly. "They think we are afraid." "Good," General Choi Minji said. "Let them think that. Fear makes people stupid, but overconfidence makes them even more stupid." 6 months passed. The aliens celebrated the departure of humanity. The Valkyrie Empire threw parties. Other species said that the galaxy was better without the emotional humans who caused problems by caring about justice. But then strange things started happening. Trade routes that humans had been protecting were attacked by pirates. Without human patrol ships, cargo vessels were being robbed and destroyed. The aliens had not realized how much work humans had been doing to keep space safe. Scientific research slowed down. Humans had been sharing their discoveries freely, helping other species solve difficult problems. Without human scientists, many alien research projects stopped making progress. Most disturbing of all were the reports from the edge of galaxy. Deep space sensors detected massive energy signatures in empty space. Ships with unknown designs were spotted for brief moments before disappearing again. Strange signals were heard on frequencies that no known species used. Veltharion, the Valkyrie leader who had refused to punish his people for destroying the human colony ship, was meeting with other Confederation leaders on Nexus Prime. "These energy readings mean nothing," he said, his 3 eyes blinking in annoyance. "Humans are not capable of advanced technology. They are a young species with primitive knowledge." But Commander Zix of the Zentari military looked worried. "Our scouts report finding structures in space that should not be possible. Objects the size of moons that appear and disappear. Ships that seem to bend the laws of physics." "Impossible," Veltharion said. "Human technology is 50 years behind ours." "What if it is not?" asked Delegate Korth of the Yixian Republic. "What if they were hiding their real abilities while they were being diplomats?" Veltharion made his laughing sound again. "You give them too much credit. Humans are weak. That is why they spent 50 years talking instead of fighting." But privately, Veltharion was starting to worry. 3 Valkyrie exploration ships had disappeared near the edge of their territory. The ships had been investigating strange energy readings when they simply vanished. No wreckage was found. No distress signals were sent. They were just gone. On Earth, Admiral Lee Tajan received reports from Captain Nam Hyok's invisible scouts. The information they brought back was useful. The Confederation is starting to panic, Captain Nam Hyok said. Trade is breaking down. Several member species are arguing about who drove away the humans. Good, Lee Tajan said. What about military preparations? They are trying to build new patrol fleets to replace human peacekeeping forces, General Choi Minji said. But they cannot agree on who should pay for them or who should command them. Dr. Yoon Ji-won looked up from her computer. Admiral, I think it is time for the next phase. What do you have in mind? Lee Tajan asked. A message, she said. Something to let them know that we are still here, but not where they expect us to be. Lee Tajan thought about this. For months, humanity had been silent. They had disappeared without explanation, leaving the aliens to wonder what had happened. But maybe it was time to remind the galaxy that humans still existed. Do it, he said. Dr. Yoon Ji-won worked at her computer for several hours. She was programming a message that would appear simultaneously on every major world in the Confederation. The message would use quantum entanglement to bypass all security systems and appear directly on public information networks. When she was ready, she looked at Admiral Lee Tajan. He nodded. Dr. Yoon Ji-won pressed a button. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds belonging to dozens of species, the same message appeared on every screen, every computer, every communication device. You wanted us gone. We are gone. Do not look for us. Do not follow us. You are not ready for what we have become. The message stayed visible for exactly 1 minute, then disappeared. No alien technician could trace where it came from. No security system could explain how it had appeared. On Nexus Prime, Veltharion stared at his computer screen long after the message had vanished. For the first time since the human colony ship had been destroyed, he felt something that might have been fear, maybe. The humans were not as weak as he had thought. Maybe they had been pretending to be weak while they prepared for something else. Maybe humanity's 50 years of diplomacy had not been because they were peaceful. Maybe it had been because they were patient. In the secret base under Earth, Admiral Lee Tajan smiled. The hunt was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what they were about to face. Humanity had spent 50 years learning to be diplomats. But before that, they had spent 10,000 years learning to be hunters. Now it was time to remember which one they were better at. Scout Commander An Seung-ho floated in the darkness between galaxies, watching a Confederation search fleet through his ship's sensors. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, scanning empty space for any sign of human presence. They had been searching for 2 years now, and they had found nothing. That was exactly what An Seung-ho wanted. His ship, the Shadow Walker, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Engineer Ko Soo-young had designed it using principles that alien science said were impossible. The ship existed slightly outside normal space-time, making it invisible to all sensors and undetectable by any known technology. "Commander," said his pilot, Lim Dae-ho, "the Confederation fleet is moving toward Grid Section 447. An Seung-ho smiled. Grid Section 447 was where humans wanted the aliens to look. Dr. Bae Yuna had placed false energy signatures there to keep the search fleets busy while humanity prepared for the next phase of their plan. Let them look, An Seung-ho said. They will find exactly what we want them to find. The Galactic Confederation was falling apart. Without human peacekeeping forces, wars had broken out between member species. Trade routes were controlled by pirates. Scientific progress had stopped. The economy was collapsing. But the worst part was the fear. For 3 years, humans had been completely invisible. No human ship had been seen. No human world had been found. No human signal had been detected. It was as if 50 billion people had simply vanished from existence. The aliens were starting to realize that they had made a terrible mistake. On Nexus Prime, emergency meetings were held every day. Species representatives argued and blamed each other for driving away humanity. The Velkari Empire, once proud and arrogant, now faced rebellion from their own colonies who were angry about the failing economy. Veltharion, the Velkari leader who had ordered the attack on the human colony ship, sat in his private office staring at intelligence reports. 37 Confederation search fleets had been sent to find humans. All had returned empty-handed. But that was not the strangest part. The strangest part was that some of the search fleets had not returned at all. The brave explorer, a Zentari battleship, had disappeared while investigating energy readings near the galactic core. The Starseeker, a Korath research vessel, had vanished while examining strange structures in deep space. The Truthfinder, a Yixin scout ship, had simply stopped transmitting in the middle of a routine patrol. No wreckage was ever found. No distress signals were ever sent. The ships just disappeared as if they had never existed. Commander Zix of the Zentari military had a theory, but it was so frightening that he almost did not want to share it. "What if the humans are not hiding?" he said during a security briefing. "What if they are hunting?" Feltharian's three eyes all focused on him.
What do you mean?
"Think about it," Commander Zix said. "Every ship that has disappeared was investigating signs of human activity. What if those signs were bait? What if the humans are deliberately making us send ships to certain areas, then capturing or destroying them?" "Impossible," Feltharian said, but his voice was not as confident as it used to be. "Humans do not have the technology to make our ships disappear without a trace." "How do you know?" Commander Zix asked. "We spent 50 years thinking we knew everything about human capabilities. We thought they were weak because they chose diplomacy. What if we were wrong about everything?" Back in space, Scout Commander An Seung-ho was proving that Commander Zix was absolutely right. The Confederation had sent another search fleet to investigate grid section 447. 12 ships from 4 different species, armed with the most advanced sensors the galaxy had to offer. They were confident that this time they would find something. They did find something. They found the Shadow Walker, but only because An Seung-ho wanted them to. "Pilot Lim Dae-ho, decloak the ship," An Seung-ho ordered. "Are you sure, Commander?" Lim Dae-ho asked. "They outnumber us 12 to 1. Numbers do not matter when you have better technology," An Seung-ho said. The Shadow Walker materialized out of empty space directly in front of the Confederation fleet. The alien ships immediately raised their shields and charged their weapons. "Unknown vessel," came a transmission from the lead ship. "You are ordered to identify yourself and submit to inspection." An Seung-ho opened a communication channel. His face appeared on the screens of all 12 alien ships. He was a young man with calm eyes and a slight smile. "I am Scout Commander An Seung-ho of the Human Empire," he said. "You have been looking for us. Congratulations, you found us." The commander of the Confederation fleet was a Korath named Dex Minor. His forearms gestured frantically as he spoke. "Human ship, you will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." An Seung-ho's smile became wider. "I think you misunderstand the situation. You are not here to capture me. You are here to receive a message." "And what message?" Dex Minor demanded. "We gave you peace," An Seung-ho said. "You chose war. We offered friendship. You chose betrayal. We extended trust. You chose greed. Now you will learn what happens when humans stop being diplomatic." "You are outnumbered," Dex Minor said. 1 ship against 12. Surrender now and you will be treated according to Confederation law." "Confederation law?" An Seung-ho laughed. "You mean the law that said it was acceptable to murder 50,000 innocent humans?" "That law?" He touched a control on his command chair. "Computer, demonstrate human law." What happened next would be talked about in alien military academies for generations. The Shadow Walker did not fire weapons. It did not launch missiles. It did not even move. Instead, the 12 Confederation ships simply stopped working. Their engines shut down. Their weapons powered off. Their shields collapsed. Their life support systems continued to function, but everything else died. Dr. Bei Yuna's latest invention had worked perfectly. The molecular disruptor beam could disable any technology by breaking the bonds between atoms in electronic circuits. It left biological matter completely unharmed, but turned advanced machinery into expensive scrap metal. "This is impossible," Dex Minor said. His voice transmitted over emergency communication systems that were too simple to be affected by the disruptor. 3 years ago, you would have been right, An Seung-ho said. But humans have been busy. We spent 50 years learning your technology, understanding your science, and finding ways to make it obsolete. "What do you want?" Dex Minor asked. "I want you to go home," An Seung-ho said. "I want you to tell your leaders what you saw here. I want you to explain that human ships can appear anywhere, anytime, and that your most advanced technology is useless against us." "How will we get home?" "Our ships are disabled." An Seung-ho touched another control. Suddenly, the 12 Confederation ships found themselves floating in space near Nexus Prime, thousands of light years from where they had been. Human transportation technology, An Sung-ho explained, though he was no longer there to hear their shocked responses. We can move anything anywhere instantly. Your ships, your fleets, your entire worlds if necessary. The Shadow Walker had already vanished, leaving the alien commanders to stare at empty space and wonder how they had been transported across the galaxy in the blink of an eye. News of the encounter spread quickly through Confederation space. For the first time in 3 years, someone had actually seen a human ship and lived to tell about it. But the story they told was more frightening than if they had all been destroyed. Humans had technology that could disable any ship without firing a shot. They could transport objects instantly across impossible distances. They could appear anywhere without warning and disappear just as quickly. Most terrifying of all, they had chosen to let the Confederation fleet live. That meant this had been a demonstration, not an attack. The humans were showing what they could do, not everything they could do. On his homeworld, Veltharion read the report from Commander Dex Minor for the 5th time. Each time he read it, it seemed more impossible and more terrifying. "Sir," said his military advisor, "perhaps it is time to consider negotiating with the humans." Veltharion's 3 eyes all looked at him in anger. "Negotiate? We are the Velkari Empire. We do not negotiate with inferior species." "With respect, sir," the advisor said carefully, "they do not seem inferior anymore." Veltharion was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. "Send a message to the human empire. Tell them the Velkari wish to discuss the current situation." "What if they do not respond, sir?" Veltharion looked out the window at his homeworld's 3 moons. He wondered if human ships were watching him right now from places he could not see. Then we will learn what it feels like to be prey instead of predators. In the darkness between stars, Scout Commander An Seung-ho received the Velkari message. He read it once, deleted it, and continued his patrol. The time for talking was over. Now it was time for the next phase of humanity's plan. The hunt was becoming a war, and the aliens were about to learn that humans had been holding back for 3 years. They were about to see what humanity looked like when it stopped being patient. Fleet Admiral Jong Min-soo stood in the command center of humanity's greatest warship, the Reckoning. The ship was so large that it had its own weather systems inside its hull. It carried enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. But that was not why Admiral Jong had built it. He had built it to end wars without firing a single shot. Intelligence Director Kang Ji-hye, Admiral Jong said, "Are our forces in position?" Director Kang Ji-hye was a small woman who looked like she should be teaching children instead of commanding the galaxy's most advanced spy network. But her appearance was deceiving. For 4 years, she had been placing human agents throughout Confederation space, gathering information about every corrupt deal, every illegal weapon, every secret crime. "All teams are ready." "Admiral," she said, "we have complete intelligence on every major government in the Confederation. We know who took bribes, who sold illegal weapons, who murdered their own people for power." Colonel Park Soon-ho stepped forward. He was the leader of humanity's ground forces, soldiers who were equipped with technology that made them nearly impossible to stop. Each human soldier wore armor that could stop any known weapon and carried devices that could disassemble matter at the molecular level. "My forces are in position around 12 key worlds," Colonel Park said. "We can take control of any strategic location within minutes." Tech specialist Oh Yerim looked up from her computer station. She was responsible for humanity's information warfare capabilities. With a few keystrokes, she could take control of any alien computer network, disable any security system, or broadcast messages to entire populations. "I have access to every major communication network in the galaxy," she said. "When you give the word, Admiral, I can make sure every alien citizen knows the truth about their leaders." Admiral Jong Min-soo nodded. Today was the day that humanity stopped hiding and started teaching. "Begin Operation Reckoning," he said. What happened next occurred simultaneously across the entire galaxy. On the Velkari homeworld, Veltharion was in his palace meeting with military commanders when every screen in the building suddenly displayed a list of his crimes. The list was long and detailed. It included the murder of the human colonists, but also hundreds of other illegal acts, bribes he had taken, weapons he had sold to terrorists, Rebellions he had crushed by killing innocent people. How is this possible? He demanded. But his technicians could not turn off the screens or stop the broadcast. The same thing was happening on every world in Velkari space. Every computer, every television, every communication device was showing the evidence of their leader's corruption. The people of the Velkari Empire were seeing the truth about their government for the first time. But that was just the beginning. On the military world of Korath Prime, General Hex Warrior was reviewing battle plans when his weapons factories simply stopped working. Not destroyed, just stopped. Every piece of equipment in every facility had been disassembled at the molecular level and neatly sorted into piles of raw materials. A message appeared on his personal communicator. These weapons were used to kill innocent people. They will not be used again. If you want them back, build them for defense, not conquest. On the trading world of Yixin Central, the massive banks that had been hiding illegal money for centuries found their computer systems completely rewritten. Every corrupt transaction was now visible to the public. Every bribe, every stolen credit, every illegal deal was displayed for all to see. But more than that, the money had been redistributed. Funds that had been stolen from poor worlds were returned. Credits that had been hidden by crime lords were donated to hospitals and schools. The message that appeared was simple. Stealing from the poor to make the rich richer ends today. On Zentari Command Station, Admiral Kex Torthan was commanding a fleet of battleships when his ships suddenly found themselves scattered across the galaxy. One moment they had been in formation near their homeworld. The next moment each ship was alone in empty space, far from any other vessel, but they were not damaged. Their crews were not harmed. They had simply been moved like pieces on a chessboard to show that human technology could put them anywhere at any time. The message Admiral Kex Torthan received was delivered by a human who appeared directly on his command bridge, despite the fact that no ship had docked and no transport beam had been detected. The human was Colonel Park Sunho, and he materialized out of thin air wearing armor that seemed to bend light around it. "Admiral," Colonel Park said politely, "your fleet has been disarmed and scattered to prevent you from attacking civilian targets. Your weapons will be returned when you prove you can use them responsibly." "How did you get on my ship?" Admiral Kex Torthan demanded. "Human transportation technology," Colonel Park said. "We can put our soldiers anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Your shields, your security systems, your locked doors, none of them can stop us. What do you want?" Admiral Kex Torthan asked. "We want you to stop hurting innocent people," Colonel Park said. "We want you to govern with justice instead of force. We want you to remember that power should be used to protect, not to control." Colonel Park touched a device on his belt and vanished as suddenly as he had appeared, leaving Admiral Kex Torthan to wonder if humans had become gods. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on hundreds of worlds. Human agents appeared in the most secure locations to deliver messages. Corrupt leaders found their crimes exposed to their own people. Illegal weapons vanished overnight. Hidden money was returned to those who had been robbed. But humans did not kill anyone. They did not destroy cities or conquer planets. They simply removed the ability to do evil and gave people the information they needed to make better choices. On Nexus Prime, the emergency session of the Confederation Council was in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species were shouting at each other, demanding explanations that no one could provide. "How did they hack every computer in the galaxy at the same time?" demanded Delegate Korth of the Yixin. "How did they move our entire fleet without being detected?" asked Commander Zix of the Zentari. "How did they get soldiers inside our most secure facilities?" whispered Counselor Dex 9 of the Korath. But the question everyone was afraid to ask was simpler. If humans could do all of this, what else could they do? The answer came as a broadcast that appeared on every screen in the council chamber. Admiral Zhang Minsu's face looked out at the terrified alien leaders. "Members of the former Galactic Confederation," he said, "this is not conquest. This is house cleaning. For 4 years you have had the chance to investigate the murder of 50,000 innocent humans. You chose to protect the criminals instead of seeking justice. We tried to work within your system," Admiral Zhang continued. "We followed your laws, respected your traditions, and trusted your promises. In return, you showed us that your system rewards corruption and protects the powerful while sacrificing the weak. So we have decided to teach you a better way. Veltharian, watching from his palace as his own people demanded his arrest, shouted at the screen. "You cannot do this. You cannot judge us. You are not gods." As if he had heard him, Admiral Zhang smiled sadly. "You are right. We are not gods. We are just humans who got tired of watching innocent people suffer, while their leaders grew rich and powerful by causing that suffering." "This ends now," Admiral Zhang said. "The age of corruption is over. The time of justice has begun. We tried to be your partners. Now we will be your teachers." The broadcast ended, but the effects continued. Across the galaxy, the old governments were collapsing as their own people learned the truth about their leaders. But humans were there to help with the transition. They provided food to hungry populations, medical care to the sick, and protection to those who had been oppressed. On worlds where dictators had ruled through fear, human soldiers appeared to escort the tyrants to exile on barren asteroids where they could think about their crimes without being able to hurt anyone else. On worlds where corruption had made people poor while their leaders lived in luxury, human technology redistributed wealth and resources fairly. On worlds where different species had been fighting each other for generations, human mediators helped them find peaceful solutions to their conflicts. The Velkari Empire, which had started this conflict by murdering the human colonists, received special attention. Their military was completely disarmed. Their weapons were disassembled and the materials donated to building hospitals and schools. Their leaders were exiled to a cold moon where they could survive but not command armies. The Velkari people, freed from their corrupt government, chose new leaders who promised to govern with wisdom instead of violence. Veltharion, sitting alone on his ice-covered exile, received one final message from humanity. "You wanted to teach us that might makes right. Thank you for the lesson. Now let us show you what happens when the mighty choose to do right." In less than a month, the entire galaxy had been transformed. The old Confederation was gone, replaced by a new system where corruption was impossible and justice was swift. Humans did not rule this new galaxy. They simply made sure that those who did rule were worthy of the responsibility. Admiral Zhang Min-su stood on the bridge of the reckoning and looked out at the stars. The galaxy was more peaceful than it had been in centuries. President Moon Jae-young stood at the podium in the Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime. The hall had been rebuilt after the fall of the old Confederation, and now it looked different. The walls were made of materials that could not hide listening devices. The chairs were arranged so that no delegate could whisper secrets to another without being heard. Every surface was embedded with human technology that made lies impossible and corruption unthinkable. President Moon was a quiet woman with kind eyes, but everyone in the galaxy knew that she had the full support of the human empire. When she spoke, her words carried the weight of the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. "Today marks the 5th anniversary of the new Galactic Council," she said, looking out at representatives from hundreds of worlds. 5 years ago, this galaxy was ruled by fear, corruption, and violence. Today, it is the most peaceful and prosperous it has ever been. The statistics were impressive. Wars had dropped to 0. Crime rates had fallen by 90%. Poverty had been eliminated on most worlds. Scientific progress had resumed at a pace faster than ever before. But the cost of this peace was visible in the faces of the alien representatives. They looked grateful but also afraid. They were like children who had been given everything they needed, but knew that their gifts could be taken away if they misbehaved. Director Kim Dong-hyun sat in the human section of the assembly. He was responsible for the Galactic Rehabilitation Program, which helped former dictators and criminals learn to live peaceful lives. It was difficult work, but necessary. "The Velkari rehabilitation colonies are showing excellent progress," he reported to President Moon after her speech. "Former military leaders are now working as farmers and teachers. They seem to understand that violence only creates more problems." President Moon nodded. "And the other problem worlds?" "The Karath have established a new government based on consensus instead of military strength," Director Kim said. "The Yixian have created a transparent banking system that makes corruption impossible. The Zentari have disbanded their attack fleets and now focus on exploration and scientific research." It all sounded wonderful, but President Moon could hear what Director Kim was not saying. These changes had not come from the aliens' own desire to improve. They had come from human pressure and human supervision. Admiral Song Yunji walked into the room. She was now the keeper of galactic peace, responsible for ensuring that the new order remained stable. Her ships patrolled every trade route, monitored every government, and watched for any sign of the old corruption returning. Madam President, Admiral Song said, "We have detected unauthorized military research on 3 worlds in the Outer Rim." "What kind of research?" President Moon asked. "Weapons development," Admiral Song said. "Nothing that could threaten human forces but advanced enough to be used against civilian populations." President Moon sighed. Even after 5 years, some species still tried to return to the old ways of solving problems with violence. "Standard response protocol," she said. Admiral Song nodded. Within hours, human ships would appear over those 3 worlds. The weapons research would be quietly shut down. The scientists involved would be relocated to projects that helped people instead of harming them. No one would be hurt, but the message would be clear. The galaxy's new rules were not optional. Philosopher Ryu Youngman entered the room carrying a tablet computer. He was responsible for developing the philosophical foundation of the new galactic order. His job was to help alien species understand why the old ways had failed and why the new ways were better. "I have been analyzing the psychological reports from the rehabilitation programs," he said. "The results are interesting but troubling." "In what way?" President Moon asked. "The alien species are adapting to our system very well," Philosopher Ryu said. "Perhaps too well. They are becoming dependent on human guidance for every decision. Some worlds will not even change their trade routes without asking for human approval first." President Moon understood the problem. Humans had wanted to teach the galaxy to govern itself wisely. Instead, they had accidentally taught it to wait for human permission before doing anything. "They are afraid to make mistakes," Admiral Song said. "They know that human technology is always watching, always evaluating. So they choose to do nothing rather than risk doing something wrong. This was the unexpected consequence of human success. The galaxy was peaceful, but it was also passive. Alien species had stopped thinking for themselves because they knew that humans would solve any problem that arose." Director Kim Dong-hyun looked troubled. "Are we creating a galaxy of children who will never grow up?" "Maybe," President Moon said. "But what is the alternative? When we gave them freedom to choose, they chose corruption and violence." The door opened and Captain Han Wu entered. He was older now, with gray hair and lines around his eyes. He had been one of the last human diplomats before the Great Change, and now he served as an advisor to the new government. "Madam President," he said, "I have just returned from a tour of the former Velkari worlds. The people there are happy and safe, but they asked me an interesting question." "What question?" President Moon asked. "They asked if humans would ever forgive them for what they did to the colony ship." President Moon was quiet for a moment. The murder of 50,000 innocent humans was the event that had changed everything. It was the moment when humanity had decided that the galaxy could not be trusted to police itself. "What did you tell them?" she asked. "I told them the truth," Captain Han Wu said. "Humans do not forget. We have forgiven them for what they did, but we will never again trust them to do the right thing without supervision." This was the reality of the new galaxy. Humans had become the eternal guardians, the watchful parents who could never relax their vigilance. They had saved countless lives and ended countless conflicts, but they had also lost the ability to see other species as equals. Admiral Song Yoonji walked to the window and looked out at the space around Nexus Prime. Human ships moved silently through the darkness, invisible to most sensors but always present. They were like guardian angels that no one could see but everyone knew were there. "Do you ever miss the old days?" she asked President Moon. "Which old days?" President Moon replied. "When humans were explorers instead of police. When we discovered new worlds instead of governing old ones. When we made friends instead of subjects." President Moon thought about this question carefully. She remembered the stories from before the Great Change, when human ships carried scientists and diplomats instead of soldiers and judges. When humans had looked at the galaxy with wonder instead of suspicion. "I miss the innocence," she said finally. "I miss believing that people would choose to do good if given the chance." "The galaxy is safer now," Director Kim said. "Billions of people live better lives because of what we have done." "I know," President Moon said. "But sometimes I wonder if we saved the galaxy or conquered it." Philosopher Ryu Youngman looked up from his tablet. "Does it matter? The result is the same. Peace, prosperity, and justice for all." "It matters to me," Admiral Song said quietly. I remember when alien children used to run up to human soldiers to ask for candy and stories. Now they hide behind their parents and whisper about the scary humans who watch everything. This was the loneliness of power. Humans had become so strong that no one could threaten them. But that same strength made it impossible for anyone to truly befriend them. How could you be friends with someone who could disassemble your entire world with a thought? President Moon made a decision. I want to try an experiment. What kind of experiment? Captain Han Wu asked. I want to find a small world somewhere far from the major trade routes. A place that has been peaceful and well governed under our system. I want to withdraw our supervision completely and see what happens. The others looked shocked. Madam President, Admiral Song said, that could be dangerous. Without human oversight, they might return to the old ways. Or they might not, President Moon said. Maybe 5 years of living under our system has taught them to value peace and justice for their own sake, not just because we enforce it. Director Kim Dong-hyun shook his head. And if they do return to corruption and violence? Then we will intervene again, President Moon said. But we have to try. We cannot be the galaxy's parents forever. Philosopher Ryu Youngmin smiled. It is an interesting test. Are we trying to find out if they have learned to be good, or if we have learned to let go? Both, President Moon said. The experiment was carried out on a small world called Haven's Rest, inhabited by a peaceful species that had never caused any trouble. Human ships withdrew from their space. Human monitoring systems were turned off. For the first time in 5 years, the people of Haven's Rest were completely free to govern themselves. The results were watched carefully by human observers from a distance. For 6 months, nothing changed. The government of Haven's Rest continued to operate exactly as it had under human supervision. They made fair laws, distributed resources equitably, and resolved conflicts through peaceful negotiation. But in the 7th month, something interesting happened. The people of Haven's Rest sent a message to humanity, not a request for help or a report of problems, but simply a thank you note. They thanked humans for teaching them how to live in peace with each other.